Right.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. So, Larry, Ukraine. Russia just bombed the hell out of Ukraine. What's going on there?
Yeah. So there's some speculating that this was a retaliation for the Kursk invasion. I don't think it is. But Russia struck. They made a point of hitting in the daylight. So they were hitting Monday morning, Ukraine time. We're starting around 5 a.m., 6 a.m., which means I was seeing reports of it at 10, 11 o'clock at night, Sunday night. And they hit, it looks like it was primarily targeted at electrical substations, power plants. Russia is just further degrading the ability of Ukraine to power itself. And it's actually going to sort of create an odd situation going forward, that when winter comes on, there will only be a few places where there will be electricity running and heat being generated, and those will be normally associated with defense plants or locations engaged with military activity, which will make it easier for the Russians to target them. They won't be able to mask themselves. It looks like the Russians also hit the Aurora Hotel in I forget which city, but it was a place where troops were being birthed. So you had the Ukrainian forces, or I guess foreign mercenaries, were staying at that hotel. So clearly a bunch of them were killed. We don't know what nationality. So Russia is continuing the offensive there, and on top of that, it is moving forward rapidly in the Donbass. The Ukrainians are evacuating major portions of the Donbass. They're telling their civilians to flee, run away.
Yeah, exactly. When I start seeing the reports from the bombing, well, obviously it was the electric network. Also, it hit. It didn't hit, but it affected also Moldavia, with lack of energy that used to come from Ukraine. And one thing that called my attention was some reports of some assistant journalists getting killed. Assistant journalists. I don't even know what that means. Is there? You used to work for for journalism, for mainstream journalism. Is there this profession, assistant journalist?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that is. That's an odd title.
Exactly.
Very strange.
Yeah. It's so it seems strange to me that it looks just like a continuation, as you mentioned, the nothing exactly related to Kursk. At the same time, it sends a very, very interesting message. Just today I was on the shopping center here, and on TV, the Italian TV was showing Kiev is holding 1,200 square kilometers of Kursk, and I was like, yeah, Russia just bombed the entire Ukraine. So Russia owns the entire Ukraine, and they have 1,000 kilometers. That's not even fair.
No, well, they don't control that territory. I mean, that definition of control from a military standpoint means that no Russian troop could move along the roadside without getting blown up. But the fact of the matter is the Russians control the roads. It's the Ukrainians who are basically trapped in a variety of small villages, little communities. They're not even holding anything substantial. So, and they're being killed and captured, or wounded. So their casualties are mounting steadily each day.
Yeah. Well, just to finish this, one thing that puzzled me was the bridges that Ukraine bombed. The thing that I thought because it looks like they bumped the bridges behind the lines, the line of contact. I
Yeah.
mean, so they are basically isolating whatever is inside of that region to not flee. Or am I wrong on thinking that?
Well, I thought the same thing when I saw that, and I'm not sure I've got a good enough grasp of the geography there.
Hmm.
But either way, whether they blew up bridges that are basically cutting them off from going back into Ukraine,
Hmm.
which seems pretty silly because those units aren't going to survive without resupply. The only way you get resupplied is either some trucks drive up and drop off ammunition and food and water, or a train does the same. But either trucks or trains are going to have to cross a river on a bridge. So if the bridges are down, they don't get that. The other alternative is you've got to use airdrop, but that means fixed wing aircraft come in and drop supplies. That type of aircraft is so vulnerable to attack by the Russians that they're not going to do that either. So yeah, it's very curious. And then on top of it, as soon as they blow up the bridges, the Russians have established pontoon units. They're able to build an immediate bridge across the river, and keep it open for the movement of Russian troops. So it's not clear what the specific objective was by the Ukrainians with that activity.
Yeah, that puzzles me, and I think again, as you say, as you usually say, if you try to think rational, never gonna get the answer for those things.
Yeah. No, exactly right.
In relation of Ukraine, I just see the bump of Kiev asking for more money and more things, and he something that flew around was he has a plan to win the war that he's going to bring Washington. Is there anything that they could do to do anything?
Okay, I'm not sure. I got confused there. Who are we talking about?
Oh, the bump of Kiev. Sorry, is the Zelensky guy.
Zelensky. Okay, so Zelensky is he's in a very difficult position right now, and he's delusional. So it is you're puzzled looking at this activity in Kursk because it was so. It's not just reckless. It's really a futile effort because let's say that they. It's not clear what the objective was. We've heard conflicting or multiple objectives that they wanted to capture the nuclear plant at Kurchatov. They wanted to divert Russian soldiers from Donbass and force them to go to Kursk so that it would take the heat off of the Ukrainians defending against them. Mm-hmm. And that last one seems to be really what was afoot. And then I think Zelensky's goal is to hope to take action against the Russians that will lead the Russians to retaliate against NATO in order to bring NATO into the fight. I think he sees the only way he's going to survive is if the United States, Britain, Germany go to war with Russia, which is, it's insane. Because if it gets to that stage, then the nuclear weapons are going to be used, and the United States and Europe will be devastated. Literally destroyed. Mm-hmm. Not just emotionally upset. It's clear, though, from listening to General Syrski today, or the quote, that he's out of touch with reality. So on the one hand, he's saying, oh boy, we got a really tough time around Pokrovsk because the Russians are advancing. But our incursion, our invasion into Russia up in Kursk, that forced the Russians to divert 30,000 troops from the Donbass. And it's like, no, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
It didn't. The Russians had troops already up there in that area. They've got plenty of fresh reserves. It didn't slow the Russians down at all. What it did was weaken Ukrainian defenses in the Donbass, making it easier for Russians to move forward. So, completely out of touch with reality. And there's still sort of, I think, not going full throttle on explaining the role of NATO, and particularly U.S. military planners, British military planners, and helping concoct this harebrained scheme. But, that's what they've got. They have a disaster on their hands unfolding in Kursk. I think, it's estimated that the initial force that went in was around 12 to 14,000 Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. And it looks like well over 50% of them are now casualties. When you got a 50% casualty rate, you're not doing well.
Well, according to the MOD, to the Russian MOD, at least almost 6,000 have already perished. So, if they are talking
that
about
was 2 days. That was 2 days ago.
That was 2 days.
So it's numbers up over 7,000 now.
Yeah, not doing well. And I saw the reports were about from 10 to 30,000 troops from Ukraine. I don't know how much actually they went there, but for sure more than 10,000. Since they don't have a way to go back, to finish this, I would like to understand two things in the not front line that are happening in the back, which is the Ukrainian complaining about the buildup in Belarus and the buildup that has been noticed in Finland, close to Russian border. Do you think this is about to escalate?
Well, the buildup in Finland, I wouldn't be that concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like while the rhetoric, what is being said by politicians and some pundits and some government officials, that they're being belligerent and talking about escalating things with Russia. On the other hand, I think the one to watch out for is Zelensky's been pressing for long, middle range missiles to strike deeper into Russia. And up to this point, the U.S. and all of NATO have basically said no, because they recognize if they do that, it will escalate. Well, now this week it comes out news that, quote, Ukraine has developed a new missile, a new drone, but it's basically a cruise missile that actually could strike upwards of 700 to 800 kilometers inside Russia. So that would be the kind of thing you'd expect from the West. In looking at that, my guess is Ukraine did not develop this. This was developed in conjunction with the CIA or the British or a combination of the two. It's a Western developed technology, but it's being dressed up as if it's Ukrainian. Let's call it a transgender cruise missile. The Ukrainians, it's self-identifying as Ukrainian, when in fact it's probably of Western orientation. It comes out of the West.
But so, perhaps it's not even developed. It's just a cruise missile that someone painted over or something like that. They put some stamps.
Well, the point is when they use it, this is going to elicit a reaction from Russia that they're hoping that it will be confined to Ukraine, that it won't spread beyond that. It won't go into Poland, won't go into Romania. The other thing I forgot to mention with respect to the missile strikes is the reports indicated they hit a hangar and took out at least 2 of the F-16s that have been provided to Ukraine, which really haven't made any kind of appearance over the battlefield up to this point.
Yeah, there was even a video, right, where you could see the location of the F-16s.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen that video, but you know, the Russians clearly are tracking it, and so in tracking it, they apparently destroyed at least 2.
From not so many.